Hello, my name is Christopher Renstrom. I'm the creator of rulingplanets.com and Christopher Renstrom Astrology. And I want to welcome you to my December horoscope forecast for 2024. On December 1st, we will have a new moon in the zodiac sign of Sagittarius. Your excitement and passion are infectious whenever there's a new moon in the zodiac sign of the Archer. So much so that you can wind up doing all the gushing for everyone in the room. Now, what can happen when you get this kind of excited, when you get this kind of zippy, when you get this kind of enthusiastic, is people can be a little bit taken aback, and that they will play along with what you want to say or what you want to do because they don't want to disappoint you. So when you get all sorts of a whirl about an idea that you have, or all sorts of enthusiastic about a venture that's just come to mind, they don't want to say anything to bring you down. What they'll do is sort of smile and go, yeah, no, that's great, and they'll play along with you. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're backing you or that they're on your side or that they think that your idea might be a really great idea. And this is kind of what happens with a new moon anyway. New moons are very young moons. They're getting on out there into the world, and they're all sorts of joyous and excited. And they get that way in fire signs in general, but they really get that way when they're in a zodiac sign like Sagittarius. That's why it would be a good idea to wait a couple of days before checking in with them to make sure that they thought your idea was good, to make sure that they thought that your venture has legs, and to make a point of truly listening to them if they're sort of like, well, I think you could do better, or even if they have some sort of criticism or feedback. And you want to listen to them, especially because of this new moon energy, without interrupting what they have to say and without putting words in their mouth. What it is that you don't want people to say yes to your face and then beat a hasty retreat to the nearest exit when you're not looking. Signs most affected are Cancer, Leo, and Sagittarius. On December 4th, the Sun will square Saturn. Today you face a bit of a moral quandary. You don't feel like the old rules apply, and you feel more like you're navigating unfamiliar terrain without a moral compass. Loved ones and friends no longer have the answers to the questions you're asking. And the things that once gave you solace, like maybe it was a yoga class or a spiritual retreat, somehow feel hollow and empty. This is good, believe it or not, because it forces you to follow the path of the mystic, which is often one of quiet rebellion. It's been a while since you examined your beliefs, and they're long due for an overhaul. Don't be afraid during this time that the Sun in Sagittarius is forming a square to Saturn in Pisces to tip the sacred cows in your life. They've been asleep for far too long, and you need to seek greener and more fulfilling pastures. Signs most affected are Leo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. On December 6th, Mars turns retrograde. Now, it's not unusual to experience a drop in energy, a drop in confidence and resolve, when Mars, the planet of gumption and drive, suddenly turns retrograde. All of a sudden, you don't feel the resolve that you felt before, the direction, the courage. It all seems to be thrown into reverse. When a planet is retrograde like Mars, it acts in the opposite way that it typically does when it's moving forward in the sky. Mars, the planet of gumption and drive, suddenly loses its gumption, it loses its drive. It's looking around for a way to retreat, to beat an exit, or dive down the nearest foxhole. What you want to do during this period of time is that you want to moderate your approach, because the more that you push, the more that circumstances that you're up against will push back, and with potentially disastrous results. You'll get what you want eventually, as long as you're adaptable. And adaptable is very much a word that you want to keep in mind. when Mars is traveling backwards through the sky. Mars retrograde can also bring conflicts with authority, so you'll want to do what you can to diffuse tensions wherever they might occur. It can also bring out the needy side of people, the needy side of people and people you once thought were impervious or didn't give a damn. All of a sudden, they're whiny and they're needy and they're second guessing themselves. This could create some awkward situations as you try to deal with their fear and trembling while managing your own. Mars will be retrograde until February 23rd. Signs most affected are Aries, Cancer, Leo, and Scorpio. On December 7th, Venus enters the zodiac sign of Aquarius and then conjoins Pluto. You always want to be careful about who you're getting into bed with, either romantically or fiscally, whenever Venus forms a conjunction to Pluto in the sky. Venus, we need to remember, is the planet of attraction. Indeed, Venus rules over the rules of attraction. Her job in an astrological chart is to attract notice. It's to bring people into your orbit. People who like you, people who support you, people who want the best for you, and in some cases, people who may have a higher opinion of you or a higher vision of you than you have of yourself. Whenever Venus forms a conjunction to Pluto, there's always a bit of a Faustian bargain involved. What it puts me in mind of is that Venus is a planet that's very aspirational. She's not aspirational like the sun is. The sun rises in the sky to the noontime point, which means that the sun is always looking to be the best that it can be. And as the day progresses, the sun, if it's a clear day, will grow brighter and hotter during the course of a day. Venus is just as aspirational as the sun, but she doesn't look to herself to rise higher in the sky. She looks to other people to help her rise higher in the sky or to rise higher in society. So Venus is keeping her eye out for the person who's just a little bit higher in the social strata, a little bit higher on the corporate ladder, someone who can help Venus to climb higher and to get ahead. So what happens when Venus conjoins her energies with Pluto is that Venus may not be totally aware of the type of energy that she's bringing into your life. In other words, the Venusian energy in your chart is getting you to attract interest. It's bringing people into your social orbit. But some of these people may be of a more Plutonian quality, a more Plutonian character. That tends to be either someone who can be very controlling and perhaps domineering in a very kind of underhanded way, or it can be someone who's going through an extraordinary emotional crisis or some sort of personal transformation at the time that you meet. So this is a quality that is inherent to the Venus-Pluto conjunction. And what can happen here a little bit with the Aquarian energy coming on because Pluto is in Aquarius, there can be this idea that people should match the rules or the laws. In other words, if there are set rules and laws, then people should obey them. If there is a set code of ethics, people should follow them. If there are high expectations, you don't lower the expectations. What you do is maybe even raise them a little higher and make people reach up higher in order to meet those expectations. So there can be a little bit of an inhumane quality. Now, I don't mean inhumane in terms of hostile or malicious or cruel or anything along those lines. What it means is that you have to follow the rule. You have to follow the law. You have to follow the order of the day, and there will be no allowance for shortcomings or an inability. And what this can sort of create is a very sort of strict or a rigid regimen. If it's being imposed on you, you may feel like you have to make certain sacrifices or push yourself in certain ways to meet those expectations. It's almost like, remember when women had to wear corsets? They would put corsets around their waist and they would tighten that corset to make the thinnest waist possible, even if the end result was broken ribs, and many times women did experience broken ribs. Well, that's my example that where the body has to fit the design whenever you're dealing with this kind of Venus and Pluto conjunction in Aquarius. There's not a lot of allowance for things that are normal or typical in our daily bodily physical lives. There's an insistence that you fit the design. There's an insistence that you fit the expectation. This is fine within moderation, but if it becomes too overwhelming or if it becomes too controlling, it can end up being a situation that you may very well regret having entered into in the first place. Signs most affected are Taurus, Libra, Scorpio, and Aquarius. On December 7th, the Sun in Sagittarius forms an opposition to Jupiter in Gemini. In previous episodes, you've often heard me describe oppositions as being two planets that are absolutely opposite one another on the horoscope. These planets are in opposite camps, they've established polarized positions, and they're just not budging. Neither of them is reaching across the party line, so to speak. Now, that's one way of interpreting an opposition. Another way of interpreting an opposition, particularly an opposition by transit, and particularly an opposition involving the Sun, is as a line of summation. Think of a set of figures, of numbers that are set in a column, and you draw a line of summation underneath them, and you're going to add them up. That can be like an opposition that the Sun makes with a major planet in the sky. So this Sun-Jupiter opposition is indeed a culminating period when you can expect to reap what you've sown. Seeds that were planted 6 months ago will now bear fruit, and you should be looking at quite a harvest, especially when it comes to finances and joint resources. So what you want to do during this period of time is enjoy taking in your haul and make a point of sharing some of your good fortune with your nearest and dearest. But keep in mind that this is not a time to push your luck. You may be sorely tempted, especially when you show more of a surplus than you expected. But what I want you to do is to salt away extra funds for a rainy day, because there are plenty of those ahead, and you want to be ready for them. Signs most affected are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. Another planetary aspect that will be taking place on December 7th. Wow, what is it with December 7th? I guess that happens to be a happening day for December. Anyway, another planetary aspect that will be taking place on December 7th is that Neptune will be coming out of retrograde. Neptune is the planet of imagination in astrology. And when you think of the crucial role that visualization, creative thinking, and positive intention plays in our society, then you'll start to get an idea of how truly powerful this planet can be. But one person's vision can be another person's mirage. And that might be what you felt like these past 5 months when Neptune was retrograde in the sky. You might have felt like you were trudging across the burning sands in search of a prize that seemed hopelessly out of reach. Well, you are about to discover, now that Neptune is coming out of retrograde, if that objective was real or fantasy. Chances are you'll discover it's real, but don't be surprised if you find yourself secretly missing the fantasy. Signs most affected are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. On December 8th, there will be a first quarter moon in the zodiac sign of Pisces. The waxing influence of this first quarter moon will bring out all of your tune in and drop out tendencies. This is good if you elect to get in touch with what's going on with you spiritually and psychically. It's a time when you'll be exploring your inner landscape, and it could even lead you to throw off the shackles of conventional wisdom and formulaic thinking. That's the dropout part. However, the Jupiter energy at work in the background, And let's remember that Jupiter is one of the two ruling planets of Pisces. Jupiter is also famous for its anywhere but here tendencies, and this could prod you to walk out on your responsibilities and obligations. It's important to remember during times like these that whatever spiritual path you choose to walk, it still has to wind its way through the real world, resulting in actual good works and true acts of caring. Otherwise, it's just escapism. Signs most affected are Cancer, Sagittarius, and Pisces. On December 12th, Venus in Aquarius will form an opposition to Mars in Leo. Romantic complications ensue when Venus forms an opposition to Mars in the sky. This is famous for unexpected role reversals. This is when you will learn for yourself what it's like to be in a paramour's shoes. For instance, let's say you're the one who's always adored. You're the one who's always been put on a pedestal. Then you will be the one doing the adoring during this period of time. And if you're used to doing the pursuing, then you'll find yourself being pursued by someone who can't get enough of you. Rest assured that things will return to normal eventually, but during this journey into the mirror world of being treated the way that you treat others, this will do a lot to increase awareness. It will do a lot to increase awareness of other people's hearts as well as your own. You can almost think of it as an impromptu sensitivity training course, courtesy of the stars. Signs most affected are Aries, Taurus, Leo, Libra, Scorpio, and Aquarius. I hope you're enjoying this week's episode of Christopher Renstrom Astrology. If you like the channel, please go to rulingplanets.com and subscribe for my daily horoscopes, weekly horoscopes, cosmic alerts, and more. On December 13th, Mercury in Sagittarius will form a sextile to Venus in Aquarius. Mercury and Venus love to mingle, so you can expect to be invited to all kinds of get-togethers while these two planets are forming a sextile in the sky. They will bring a breath of fresh air to your social calendar as you make the acquaintance of people that you wouldn't typically have met. It's a great opportunity to broaden your horizons, to add names to your contact list, and even to brush up on your conversational skills. Now, this planetary energy is usually chatty and fly-by-night, except that Venus is in the zodiac sign of Aquarius, which gives her a more Saturnian hue. That could mean that you're making the acquaintance of someone who will go on to become a major player in your life in the future. But you'll have to wait to see what January and February bring. Signs most affected are Taurus, Gemini, Virgo, Libra, Sagittarius, and Aquarius. On December 15th, there will be a full moon in the zodiac sign of Gemini. Your heart and your head couldn't be more divided, which is why you don't want to push yourself now. It looks like you're being pressured into making some larger-than-life decisions. Unfortunately, you don't really have anything tangible or factual to counterbalance the push that you're getting from all sides, other than this vague feeling, perhaps, that you might be better off somewhere else. Whether this is a true pull from your higher purpose or escapist wishful thinking is hard to tell. In any case, you should wait with making any major decisions until after the new moon on December 30th. This is when it looks like your heart and your head will be back on the same page again. Signs most affected are Gemini, Cancer, and Sagittarius. Now, another planetary aspect that will be taking place on December 15th is Mercury coming out of retrograde in the zodiac sign of Sagittarius. Staying true to your higher purpose hasn't been easy these past few weeks. Chances are you were beset with setbacks, relapses, and bad luck spells that would have sent a lesser soul running. Thankfully, This all changes now that Mercury, the pathfinder planet, is coming out of retrograde. Not only will you quickly regain lost ground, but you'll also see that there was a lesson to be learned from your recent travails. This moral to the story will embolden you to act according to your best self over the next few weeks, when you will see for yourself that good really does win out in the end, as long as you let your conscience be your guide. Signs most affected are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. December 18th, the Sun in Sagittarius will form a square to Neptune in Pisces. Torn between a vision of yourself that feels frustratingly out of reach and a growing realization that you can't return to the way that life used to be, it may feel like your hopes and wishes are slipping through your fingers like water. They aren't. But the transition from dream to reality is always a bumpy one, and you need to be ready to sacrifice certain things that are getting in the way of what you want. It's important to cast both a critical and a compassionate eye on yourself, and to jettison those beliefs, notions, and expectations that no longer serve you. Only then will you be free to paint on the widest possible canvas. Signs most affected are Leo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. On December 19th, Venus in Aquarius will form a trine to Jupiter in Gemini. Now, good things always happen when the benefics trine one another in the sky. That's because the benefics, Venus and Jupiter, are all about good things coming to you. Good things coming to you through other people. But this trine, it's a little different from the typical version. And that's because Jupiter has been in retrograde. Actually, Jupiter is still in retrograde. When Jupiter turned retrograde in Gemini, it withdrew its benevolence. That's because a retrograde will always describe a period of time when a planet is acting in the opposite way that it does when it's traveling direct in the sky. If Jupiter is the planet of benevolence and blessings and protection, Jupiter withdraws its benevolence, its protection, and its blessings when it's traveling backwards. And that might have been the experience for some of you over the past few months, that the planet has been traveling backwards in the sky. What Venus does when she's in a sign like Aquarius and Jupiter is retrograde, what Venus does is that she kind of goes and gets Jupiter to come back to the table. It's kind of like the grumpy uncle, who was maybe funding you in a venture or was really encouraging you to be the best that you could be. And maybe you didn't listen to this person's advice, or you didn't really appreciate this person's support, or you took the blessings for granted. And so this person withdrew them. Okay, this may actually be a situation that you're experiencing in your life right now. It may actually also be a situation in which you yourself may have walked out on something that was supposed to bring good things, but it proved too difficult, you were kept waiting, or circumstances were frustrating. What Venus is going to do with this particular trine is that she's going to prevail upon Jupiter, the planet associated with good fortune and higher purpose. She's going to prevail upon Jupiter to give of these things again. And Jupiter might be like, well, this person didn't deserve it, or this person didn't feel appreciative or anything like that. And Venus will be like, oh, you come on, give them another chance. They've learned their lesson. I bet that if you showed them some blessings and some protection and some providence now, I bet right now they would be really super duper appreciative of it. So Venus is sort of playing the coaxing, cajoling energy force here. And what you may feel during this period of time is almost like the blessings have started to come back again, or there's been a show of interest from someone who used to support you, or maybe the two of you have bumped into one another on the street, or maybe the person has even reached out by email, or you've reached out by email. In any case, this is a wonderful time when you will start to feel that Jupiterian energy in your life. It won't be what it was before because Jupiter is still retrograde. Indeed, the giving of blessings and abundance is reluctant and a bit begrudging. Okay. But if you sort of soften up that energy, by showing appreciation, by recognizing the wonderful things that this person does, by basically, in a Venusian way, showing the love, you might not have gushing streams of abundance like you did before, and that's because Jupiter doesn't come out of retrograde until February. But what you will enjoy is something that's a little bit more than what you've been experiencing, and even a little bit more can be a wonderful gift indeed. Signs most affected are Taurus, Gemini, Libra, Sagittarius, Aquarius, and Pisces. On December 21st, the sun enters the zodiac sign of Capricorn. Today is the winter solstice. This is when the sun, source of heat, light, and vitality, is the furthest away from us in the sky. Nights are long, days are short, and there's a chill that blows through people's lives. For some, it's the perfect time to huddle close and get intimate. It's no coincidence that more babies are born in the late summer than at any other time of year. Do the math. But for others, the winter solstice is when they feel slow and sluggish and they just don't want to get out of bed. It all depends on whether you're diurnal or nocturnal by nature. If you're a night owl, then you'll do great during this period of time. And if you're an early bird, well, then you may have to get one of those SAD lights to balance your mood and disposition. Signs most affected are Cancer, Leo, Capricorn, and Aquarius. On December 22nd, there will be a last quarter moon in the zodiac sign of Libra. Today's last quarter moon in Libra gives you an opportunity to put down that burden you've been carrying and to walk away from a no-win situation. Now, this won't come easily. There may even be a price to pay, like cutting your losses or having to answer to some disappointed parties. But what you will have is your freedom, and that is a wonderful thing. But what if you find yourself in a situation where you're unable to leave? I mean, you want to leave, but you just don't feel like it's the right time or that you're able. Then that means you still have some unfinished business to take care of, and you need to see those things through to the end. If that's the case, then you should make peace with that. In other words, accept that you are staying because you want to stay and not because you have to. Signs most affected are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. On December 24th, Jupiter in Gemini will form a square to Saturn in Pisces. Now, this is the second time they'll be forming the square, and it will also be the last. The first time that Jupiter and Saturn formed a square in the sky, Jupiter was direct and Saturn was retrograde. What this means is that Jupiter had more power behind it than Saturn did. So with Jupiter and Gemini forming a square to Saturn in Pisces, what Jupiter was doing was bringing in new direction. It was bringing in fresh ideas, and it was making you feel like you could finally, after all this time, break out of a rut. So this was a period of time when you were feeling very optimistic and very enthusiastic and very can-do. Now this time, it's Jupiter that's retrograde in Gemini, and it's Saturn that's direct. What that means is that it's Saturn who is the stronger planet. So the big question that you may be grappling with at this time that you're standing at a crossroads, is do you have what it really takes to bring about that new direction in your life? Do you still believe in the things that made so much sense back in August? And is there a cost for embarking in such a radically new and different direction? Now, if you truly believe in the path that you're taking, and the reason why I'm using the word believe so much is because Jupiter is the planet of belief in astrology. If you truly believe, then you should be getting signs from the universe and from the world around you that you're on the right path. Okay, these should be very positive and very encouraging signs. Now, that doesn't mean that your path is obstacle free, but you are going to feel like the wind is at your back and that you have very fresh and spontaneous solutions to the problems that you face. But what if you don't really believe in this path that you've taken? What if you feel like you're heading down an ill-advised path? If you're going down a road that it feels like things are getting steeper and more difficult, and that the circumstances around you aren't really supporting what it is that you're doing. Well, this would be a moment for pause. This will be a time to ask yourself if this is really the right course for you to take. Because doubling down on something that you mistakenly believe in is not going to turn out well for you in the end. Now, you may feel in some regard that you've got to stick with this path, that you told people this is what you were going to do, maybe that there were promises or pledges that you made, and that you really don't have any choice but to see things through to the end. There's always a choice, no matter how slim the margins may be, or even if there's only a crack in the window of opportunity. There is always a choice. Now, you may feel like it's too late to change direction. You may feel like if you were to change your direction or change your mind right now, you would lose people's respect. But if anything, you'll win it. Sometimes the thing that really earns people's respect and their gratitude is making a tough choice at a time when it's really challenging to make it, by being true to what's going on in that moment. If you are honest about having made a mistake and courageous about admitting to it, instead of sourpuss expressions and looks of resentment, you may find that people are looking at you with a collective sigh of relief and warm support about finding a way to mend what was once a broken situation. Signs most affected are Gemini, Sagittarius, Capricorn, and Aquarius. On December 30th, there will be a new moon in the zodiac sign of Capricorn. This is the time to unplug, to drop out, and reconnect with yourself, even if it's only for a day. The new moon in Capricorn is either the last new moon of the old year or the first new moon of the new year, which makes it the perfect time for setting intentions. Whether it's reflecting on how far you've come, deciding if you want to continue with the road you're on, or choosing to pull up roots and start somewhere else, this is when you'll be able to examine these things most organically. There's something about the moon in winter that lends itself to peace, contemplation, and fortitude. Signs most affected are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And before I go, I want to thank you all for supporting me in my first year of Christopher Renstrom Astrology, and I want to wish you all season's greetings and the happiest of New Years. If you enjoyed what you saw, please press the like button. It helps more than you know. If you could subscribe, that would be wonderful. I've had such a wonderful time visiting with you this week, and I can't wait to get together next time on Christopher Renstrom Astrology.